Howdy, y'all. Sean Madden here with Meine kleine Gedanken experiment. A little thought experiment that I, interestingly enough, share with Carl Sagan. Now let me do this. Let me back up and start this whole thing at Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. There we read, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Now, just for a side note, you can talk about three different heavens within the text of Scripture. One being the air, the atmosphere that surrounds the earth. Second heaven, most people relate to what you see up in the stars in the stellar realm. And a lot of people identify the third heaven, which Paul talks about as the realm of God. So within these heavens, you can take the second one as being what is referred to in Genesis chapter 1. Now, a lot of scholars, a lot of Hebrew scholars and Old Testament scholars that I respect, identify that as a merism, as a way of saying everything. Instead of really separating earth and the heavens, you talk about all the big stuff and all this little stuff right here that surrounds us. Me, I'm of a mind that they were separated and meant separately for this reason. Even as a liberal arts major through all of my academic career, I had known early on that the source of all the elements was stars. You heard we are all but stardust. Well, in a way that is very true, because that which makes us up came from the stars originally, which is something that has mainly become, the details have become better understood within this last part of the last century and this century. It's turning into somewhat newer information, informed, interestingly enough, by the atomic and hydrogen bombs and the kind of energies and pressures those created. So, back in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, I see the heavens and the earth. And I came to realize early on that you need the heavens to create the earth. Now this gets back down to my thought experiment. I used a pencil. Carl Sagan used a apple pie. Compliments to him. Having married my wife for her lasagna, I appreciate the apple pie reference. But be that as it may, what he said was, if you want to invent an apple pie or make an apple pie, get someone to invent the universe. My little thought experiment started with recognizing that on my desk there was a pencil. I asked myself, how did that pencil get to be there? Not so much geographically, but ontologically. How did that pencil get to be? So I knew it was made up of substances, which are made up of molecules and compounds. And those molecules and compounds are made up of atoms and elements. Atoms and elements don't just spring into being by themselves. They had a source that required their creation or their production. Now, if you've studied in science, especially lately, a lot of people will point out what it took to make those elements was stellar activity. Things we find going on in stars, nebula, in the galactic realm. So you need those to create all those elements. Now, even as a liberal arts major, and most of you dating back to grade school and junior high and high school and into college, you're all familiar with the periodic table. Periodic table of the elements, which arranges all the elements that we know of based on atomic number and atomic weight with all the information that goes along with it. And it's arranged by atomic number, if I remember correctly, from lightest to the heaviest. Now, as I got into this, especially having read an article by a gentleman named Hugh Ross entitled Black Holes, let me get my glasses on for this, Black Holes as Evidence of God's Care, because he's making a point that black holes in many ways are necessary for the creation of some of these elements. And as you got into his article, you find out that they have identified some of these stellar and galactic processes that were necessary for elements. For instance, Big Bang fusion, that which happened at the beginning of this whole universe where it started according to the Big Bang theory, going back several billion years. You have helium and hydrogen created, or hydrogen and helium, I should say. Then you have other elements that are created by dying low-mass stars as they collapse in among themselves and explode and throw off their stellar material. Out of it comes several elements, and then exploding massive stars. Then you have cosmic ray fission and merging neutron stars, exploding white dwarfs. Now that was a very interesting periodic table to come across. I'd written Dr. Roth, asked if he knew of such a table, and it turns out that there are several of them out there, and I'll leave a link below on this video. This one, if I remember correctly, came from a wiki article that identified everything and where they came from. Now that gets back to an interesting aspect here. Like I said, that pencil or apple pie, whichever you prefer, did not come in of itself, by itself, of itself. There had to be all those things that were made to make it, and then out of stuff that we find here on Earth. So then you ask yourself, where all this stuff from Earth come from? Well, you're up to the solar system as part of this whole creative aspect, or engineering aspect, if you would. And then you're from a solar system to a galaxy. Then you're within all the different things in the galaxy. Neutron stars, black holes, exploding massive stars, low mass stars dying, all this stuff. Then you come to find out, from one galaxy you need another galaxy, 2 or 3 galaxies, and all of a sudden it's not out of the realm of possibility of thought or requirement that you need all these galaxies to make this galaxy that has our solar system in it, that has our planet on it, that has us on it. So you and I sit here and talk about this stuff. So this is the fascinating aspect for me of astronomy and astrophotography, is looking up at all that dust and the clouds and the stars and the galaxies out there, and seeing and realizing that all that out there was necessary for me to be here, necessary for you to be here, which goes to show that what we see up there is all for a purpose. Which means that if that was for a purpose and made on purpose, then so is it true that that great engineer that conceived and designed all this from the Planck level or the subquantum level and made it from that level had you in mind and had me in mind. Leave with that thought. Next time we talk, we'll talk about light and how it figures into all this. So signing off, Sean Madden. Glad to see y'all. See you next time.